Well, joining us from Abuja studio is TVC News Labour reporter Sharon Ijason. Of course, will be joined by Comrade Biodun Aremu, who is the convener of Joint Action Front from Abuja studio. Sharon, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
All right, so what can you tell us about the mood generally? 40 years of labor in Nigeria. Do they feel a sense of something worth celebrating?
Well, just like your news caption says, the struggle, the success, and the failures. It's a mixed feeling here in Abuja. Top of the moment for workers is the increase of the minimum wage, and the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, reiterated that before the third quarter, the new minimum wage will be implemented. That got workers a little bit joyful, if I could say, but they are expectant that it won't delay any further. And we recall that the Nigerian Labour Congress has proposed 56,000 naira as the new minimum wage from the initial 18,000 naira that has been paid for the past 5 years.
All right. I know one of the anticipation of workers is to know how much they'll be paid at the end of the day. We know the NLC is saying 56,000. The federal government, whether they're going to implement that is another thing, because negotiations...
I agree to that.
Exactly. Negotiations are going on as far as we're concerned. But talk to us about the high point of this celebration generally. What is the high point of the 40th anniversary of the NLC in Abuja?
Well, first thing, in reaction to the government agreeing to 56,000 naira, we would know that it's a tripartite committee. It's not just NLC in the negotiation table. You have the employers of labor, and you also have the government side to deal with. So it's difficult to say they would agree to 56,000 naira. But we should remember that when 56,000 naira came on the negotiating table, the price of crude oil wasn't the same price. The exchange rates isn't the same price as we speak. So if they are supposed to negotiate for a good national minimum wage, the Nigerian Labour Congress shouldn't even go for 56,000 naira. But also we have to look at the fact that we have so many states that are not even paying workers' salaries as at when due. So at times you have to look at the realities on ground and ensure that workers' rights are protected, and at the end of the day workers are able to receive salaries as at when due. Now, looking at the NLC at 40, it's still an ongoing celebration. As I speak to you, there are several lectures that will still actually take place today and tomorrow. So also we have so many people that will be called into the Hall of Fame, into the Nigerian Labour Congress. People will receive awards. So it's an ongoing celebration. And of course, looking at the hall yesterday, you'll see that many workers actually attended. At least we had over 1,000 delegates across Nigeria coming together to speak with one voice. And one thing that is on the table of Nigerian Labour Congress and the labour sector as I speak is that workers are already demanding that they want to be part of the electoral process. During Professor Atari Jega's lecture yesterday, he actually explained to Nigerians the essence of the working class being involved in Nigerian politics. So it's not just about you saying that you want to go out and vote. If you have credible leaders in the Nigerian Labour Congress and other trade union movements, especially when it comes to the civil rights groups also too, if we have credible people, if we have people that have integrity, we definitely know that we have better leaders to lead us moving forward.
Well, of course, Comrade Adams Oshomole said it there. If he could do it, then Labour really can begin to dream of, you know, being very active.
Political power.
Yes, in the political sphere. Now, tell us more about this alleged planned interference or plan to scuttle the new minimum wage process. What really can you tell us about that? Because there are fears that that may be going on.
Well, I didn't get your question right. Please, can you take that again?
Allegations on the part of Nigerian workers that there are plans to truncate the new minimum wage process.
Okay, for me, I think that would actually have come out from the APC meeting that was held by some governors in recent time when they had a restructuring CACOP meeting. And at that point, it was recommended that the minimum wage should be removed from the exclusive list to be moved to the concurrent list. Now, this implication is that each state will pay according to what they can afford. So it's not more a national minimum wage, but a state minimum wage. So this is what made workers actually feel that is the government actually playing politics with them when it comes to reviewing the minimum wage, because according to law, the minimum wage is supposed to be reviewed between 5 and so now that the time is up and a strong pressure group is coming out to say that, recommending that workers' wages should be removed from the exclusive list to the concurrent list, it calls for lots of questioning. So that is why workers are actually thinking that maybe the government wants to go that way. But of course, it has to get to the National Assembly, and they actually have to approve of it. So if the National Assembly doesn't actually approve of it, the labor laws and the minimum wage, of course, will remain in the exclusive list. And of course, workers' rights will be better protected. We have a national minimum wage, so employers of labor wouldn't have to take advantage of workers. And of course, when it comes to the private sector, we know that, of course, they don't joke with reviewing their wages, but it's the public is the people workers that are working with the public sector and the informal workers that are most affected. Because when you say the minimum wage is 18,000 naira, it means that if you have more than 5 people in your employment, you have to conform. And that is what we call, and it's the best international labor organization practice across the world. And Nigeria has actually gone far, because we are recognized in the International Labour Organization as people that actually are worker-friendly. So if we actually remove our labor laws from the exclusive list to the concurrent list, it means that we are going maybe like 30 or 40 years backwards. So moving forward, it's of utmost importance that each group or stakeholders in the labor sector understand the fact that labor laws has to actually remain in the exclusive list and not move to the concurrent list.
Okay. Sharon, we have been aware of a faction within the leadership of the labor union. In fact, one of the faction who was saying that pegging their own minimum wage demand at about 90,000 and all of that. But at the convention in Abuja, where there's a convergence and celebration of 40 years, was this division of this faction, was it visible? Did you see any difference between one faction and the other faction from what you have noticed?
Of course, NLC is united, and we have everybody in one piece at the event, and there was no disruption of activities. The other people you might like to call a faction, it's called United Labour Congress. They don't like to be seen as a faction. They see themselves as a movement, but of course they speak more about the private sector and than the public sector. And of course, we know that they also have a strong footing when it comes to the economic side of the country. So they are not part of the event. They are actually a different movement. But of course, it was reiterated at the event, even by the Minister of Labour, the guest lecturer yesterday, that we shouldn't allow public interest, private or personal interest to actually disrupt the movement of the Labour Congress. So what this means is the unity of Labour is of utmost importance to actually move the Nigerian labor sector forward. Even though NLC is 40 in February, it's a lot of achievements, it's a lot of struggle, because the labor sector started from even the pre-colonial time. But now we have democracy, and this is the time we're supposed to ensure that workers enjoy the dividends of democracy. It's by ensuring that they have a better condition of living, by ensuring that we have good bargaining, collective bargaining when it comes to improving the workers' welfare. But it's an internal issue, and of course, as an individual, as a journalist, I would want to see a united labor, because if the labor is stronger, workers will not suffer, because as the popular saying goes, when two elephant fights, is the ground that will suffer for it. So
all right, Sharon,
there's a lot of talk going on, and I'm sure that will be sorted out by then.
All right, thank you very much, Sharon. We have to leave you here now. Thank you very much for letting us know. We'll be following with the 40th anniversary event in Abuja.